With one move, King Charles stepped away from the Sussex fight and pushed the whole mess onto Prince William and Princess Anne. From that moment on, any future talks about titles, money, or royal standing were no longer his direct problem. While the public watched solemn plans unfold for the centenary of Queen Elizabeth II's birth, Charles was carrying two crushing burdens at once: his health battle and the never-ending Sussex storm. The king was worn down, plain and simple. He formally passed control of Sussex-related matters to the Prince of Wales and the Princess Royal, making it clear where the real operational power now sat. Charles wanted his energy fixed on one major thing only: honouring his late mother's 100th birth anniversary. That moment was bigger than family tension. It was meant to reinforce unity, history, and the crown's legitimacy at a fragile time for the monarchy. With Charles giving the nod, a harder royal line began to form under William, backed strongly by Anne and supported by Prince Edward. Their mission was sharp and blunt: tighten discipline around royal titles and stop anything that could turn the monarchy into a marketplace. William has long believed that using royal rank to sell podcasts, lifestyle products, or polished humanitarian appearances for private gain crosses a line that should never be crossed. In his view, Harry and Meghan want the shine of royalty without the duty that gives that shine meaning. He sees that setup as the exact opposite of public service. That is why the March 2026 summit reportedly ended with a fresh directive involving tighter audits, stronger restrictions, and much less tolerance. Charles did not block it. He backed it, and by the end of March 2026, William and Anne had reportedly been authorised to put that harder approach into action. A major meeting then took place at Windsor Castle with William, Anne, and senior advisors in the room. Reports circulating at the time described William as furious behind closed doors. He allegedly argued that the continued use of royal titles in commercial branding, especially when tied to the children's prince and princess styling, pushed the monarchy into dangerous territory. In his eyes, it risked turning public honours into private tools, and that was something he was no longer willing to shrug off. As April 2026 moved closer, William's frustration seemed to harden into a full doctrine of royal protection. Palace insiders and press reports claimed he had started treating the Sussex brand operation in America and their coming Australia trip as a direct institutional challenge. To William, using royal identity to add weight to business moves or private ventures was not some harmless branding trick. It was a serious misuse of something inherited through centuries of service and sacrifice. He reportedly believes royal titles are not cute accessories or flashy family labels to slap onto deals. They carry public meaning, they come from the sovereign, and historically, they are tied to duty, restraint, and constitutional responsibility. So if those titles are used to lift products, polish media projects, or give extra status to commercial ventures, William is said to view it as a deep betrayal of what the crown is supposed to stand for. The first big test of that tougher strategy appeared to be Australia. As Harry and Meghan prepared for a high-profile April 2026 visit, they were said to have run into something far colder than expected. Under his new authority, William reportedly reached out through diplomatic and Commonwealth channels with a very direct message. Harry and Meghan were travelling as private individuals, not as representatives of the King, the United Kingdom, or the Commonwealth. That message was meant to shut down any confusion before it even started. William reportedly wanted no official welcomes, no state-style treatment, no military flourishes, and no ceremonial staging that could make the trip look like a royal tour. His view, according to insiders, was brutally simple. If Harry and Meghan wanted to move like celebrities, then they should be handled like celebrities. No royal glow, no palace shield, no borrowed prestige. This was bigger than a family grudge, and that is what makes it hit harder. It was reportedly a deliberate attempt to stop the same kind of blurred lines that critics said appeared during earlier overseas visits, including Nigeria and Colombia. William's camp seemed determined to make one thing crystal clear. There would be no more room for soft-focused confusion about status. Working royals serve the institution. Private citizens do not get the same treatment just because the headlines still love a royal angle. But the coldest edge of this strategy was said to involve the future of Harry and Meghan's children's titles. Charles had long been seen as more hesitant on that front, especially as a grandfather. William, however, was reportedly looking at the issue with far less emotion and far more institutional calculation. Observers have suggested he studied the Andrew precedent closely, noting how the removal of military roles and HRH status became the cleanest way to separate a damaged figure from the working monarchy. That is why insiders said the warning to Montecito was no joke. If the children's titles continued to appear in ways that fueled public controversy, brand confusion, or media warfare, William could eventually advise a far more formal response once the power fully rested with him. Reports claimed he was especially angered by coverage that painted him as hostile toward his brother's children. From his side, that was not just offensive gossip. It was seen as an attack on his character and a threat to the monarchy's stability. In quieter but still telling ways, the palace also appeared to be drawing a hard constitutional line. Meghan's late 2025 remark that, "I am a Sussex, it's our shared name," may have played well in lifestyle branding language. But palace structures do not run on brand slogans. Under William's guidance, officials were said to be sticking firmly to formal royal house rules, documentation standards, and the refusal to attach diplomatic privilege to private commercial travel. That sent a message all by itself. The message was sharp, even if it was delivered without shouting. Whatever titles appeared in interviews, magazine pieces, or promotional coverage, they did not automatically carry force in the eyes of the British state. William reportedly wanted that distinction locked in and impossible to spin away. In other words, press language and constitutional reality were not the same thing, and he intended to make sure everyone, from the media to foreign officials, understood that loud and clear. His whole approach can be summed up by a vow he reportedly made during that March summit. He would draw a very hard line and never again allow media chaos to explode around his family. For William, this is not only about Harry. It is about Catherine and their children too. It is about shielding George, Charlotte, and Louis from what he sees as years of damage, distraction, and relentless PR crossfire. That is why he has tried to build what insiders call a steel wall around the future of the monarchy. He wants the next generation, especially George as future king, to inherit something steady, disciplined and respected, not a circus driven by celebrity tactics and never-ending drama. And as the royal calendar moved towards summer 2026, that steel wall stopped being a private feeling and started looking like official strategy. For generations, the summer season had been one of the monarchy's most symbolic rhythms, trooping the colour in public, Balmoral in private, duty followed by retreat. Those traditions once acted like glue for the House of Windsor, but under William's rising authority, summer 2026 was reportedly being redesigned into something much harsher for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, a season of total exclusion. That shift reportedly began at a tense family summit in late March. Charles may have still held a father's wish to see Archie and Lilibet, and perhaps open the door to a Highland visit, but William, Anne, and Edward were said to have pushed back as a solid bloc. Their argument was that any Sussex presence on British soil during that period would threaten the security, calm, and dignity surrounding both the King's recovery and the Queen's centenary preparations. This is where that phrase, steel wall, really took hold. Royal insiders used it, and later reports echoed it, to describe the barrier William and Catherine had built around the monarchy's core. Not just emotional distance, not just hurt feelings, but a full system of security control, media containment, and physical separation. Sources said William instructed protection teams to treat any private Sussex visit the way they would handle any other high-profile non-working celebrity. No shared security bubble, no access to royal homes, no casual arrivals, no easy entry points. And at the centre of that wall stands Catherine, who insiders say has had enough after years of public fallout and repeated drama. Reports suggest she fully backed William's decision to cut remaining ties, convinced that any renewed contact would only reopen damage that never truly healed. That is the state of play now. Not a temporary chill, not a passing disagreement, but a hardened position shaped by the belief that the monarchy can only protect itself by refusing to let the old chaos back in. What really locked that steel wall into place was one cold reality. Meghan could not be allowed to use even the appearance of peace with Catherine to polish her image in America again. During the March 2026 meeting, when King Charles carefully floated the idea of a Balmoral family gathering, William's response was said to be fierce. Insiders claimed he viewed the idea as complete madness, because bringing back the same couple after years of public fallout would only drag the family straight into another headline storm. William's position was described as blunt and strategic, not emotional. He reportedly argued that Harry and Meghan no longer arrive as private family members. Their presence brings cameras, commentary, speculation, and a fresh wave of noise that pulls focus from the Crown's actual constitutional work. He also pointed to the security contradiction around Harry. Harry continues to challenge his security arrangements, yet still appears to expect the treatment given to a senior royal. William's line was simple: it cannot work both ways. If Harry wants life as a private citizen, then he lives like one. If he wants royal standing, then he accepts royal limits. Since that balance is gone, the steel wall stays up. That mood reportedly hardened even more after the Sussex-friendly coverage in Harper's Bazaar. The articles focused on Harry's concerns over his children's titles and framed William as cold, calculating, and unyielding. But inside palace circles, those stories were not seen as harmless features. They were seen as another pressure play. To William, according to sources, it looked like the same old pattern. Family conflict pushed into glossy American media to stir sympathy and pressure the king into backing down. That is why William's reported private vow now feels like the palace rulebook. I vowed I would never let media drama happen to my family. That promise is said to be shaping every move. He reportedly sees stories like those as attempts to force Charles into a softer position through public emotion. Instead of bending, William answered with distance. The message to Montecito was sharp. Those media tactics no longer carry weight here, and every new exclusive only pushes another royal door further shut. Balmoral then became the biggest symbol of all. For decades, Balmoral was the family's safe place, the one royal space tied most closely to Queen Elizabeth II's private comfort and peace. So keeping the Sussexes away from Balmoral in 2026 was not just about blocking one summer visit. It was about reclaiming that ground for the working royals and keeping it free from cameras, leaks, and PR angles. Reports suggested the directive was strict: no cameras, no extra Sussex-linked guests, and no loose access. The Highlands, in this version, were for service and silence, not spectacle and spin. That move also killed any faint hope of a photo-driven reunion with the king. William reportedly understands exactly how valuable a single image could be. One photo of Harry beside Charles at Balmoral could bounce around the world in hours and become gold for future media use. By refusing even that chance, William was cutting off one of the Sussex brand's last powerful tools: visible royal closeness. No photo meant no easy redemption arc, no emotional jackpot, and no instant PR lift. When word of the ban reached California, the reaction was reportedly disbelief. The Sussex side was said to have counted on Charles's softer instincts, especially while his health remained a sensitive subject. What they did not seem to expect was that Charles had already allowed William to take the harder line. That changed the whole mood. The steel wall was no longer just an awkward silence or a missing invitation. It had become a full shutdown, with no casual calls, no relaxed video chats, and no quiet back-channel bargaining. The message was loud without needing to be spoken. Windsor was closed. But while that family freeze was deepening, another battle was starting to hit even harder, and this one was all about money, trust, and reputation. In late March 2026, Tom Bower reportedly released a new book titled Betrayal: The Financial Undermining of the Crown. Unlike earlier work that focused more on Meghan's ambition or Harry's mindset, this one reportedly aimed at the last part of Harry's public image that still carried real respect: his charity legacy. That is why the accusations landed with such force. The biggest claims centered on Sentebale, the charity Harry co-founded in 2006 to support children and young people affected by HIV and AIDS in Lesotho and Botswana. According to the book, the issue was not simply that Harry had stepped away from royal duties. The darker allegation was that donor attention once linked to Sentebale had allegedly been steered toward Sussex-linked projects instead. If true, that would mean one of Harry's most respected causes was being weakened, while newer California ventures gained shine. Critics described that possibility as deeply damaging, because it turns a reputation problem into a moral one. Bower also reportedly tied that wider concern to the departure of former Sentebale chief executive Sophie Chandauka. Publicly, her exit was framed as routine, but the book suggested deeper internal tension. It claimed she had pushed for stronger financial scrutiny and clearer answers, only to face resistance. In that version of events, questions about money and oversight were not welcomed, and her departure helped keep a bigger mess from spilling out into public view. Whether fully proven or not, those claims added fresh heat to the argument that Harry's most credible charitable work had been dragged into controversy. Then the book returned to another old wound that still follows Meghan everywhere: the fallout with Thomas Markle. For years, Meghan's version has been that her father let her down through staged paparazzi pictures before the wedding. But Bower reportedly pushed a much harsher theory. He claimed the situation was more complicated than the public had been led to believe, and suggested Meghan's past familiarity with photographer Jeff Rayner and the Coleman Rayner agency raised bigger questions. In that reading, what looked like simple family embarrassment may have also served a strategic purpose: creating a clean reason to cut Thomas out before the royal wedding chaos exploded further. That is exactly why these allegations reportedly landed in palace circles as confirmation, not shock. William and Anne were said to see them as more proof that their hard line was justified. William gave no public statement, but sources claimed he was disturbed without being surprised. From that point of view, the issue was no longer just gossip, hurt feelings, or press drama. It was about protecting the monarchy's charitable image and stopping any Sussex-linked controversy from spilling onto institutions that depend on public trust. And that is where the steel wall took on a bigger meaning. It stopped being only a family barrier and became a shield around the Crown's moral brand. Once critics began using labels like grifter and questioning how royal connections were being used, the whole fight moved into more dangerous territory. This was no longer just Windsor family friction. It became a fight over credibility, philanthropy, and who still looked like they were serving something bigger than themselves. That contrast only became sharper as Buckingham Palace prepared for Queen Elizabeth II's centenary and the spotlight shifted toward Australia. On one side stood the old royal model: restraint, duty, continuity, and public service. On the other stood what critics describe as the Sussex model: branding, monetization, emotion, and premium image building. Meghan's Coming Her Best Life event became the flashpoint. Marketed as a luxury retreat for empowered women, it looked glamorous on the surface, but many critics said the optics were rough. With tickets reportedly priced around $3,000 Australian dollars, the event was slammed by some as badly out of touch during a time of inflation and housing pressure. That is why William and Anne reportedly see it as the perfect contrast, because while Catherine's public work is framed around early childhood, social programs, research, and broad access, Meghan's polished Australian stage has come to symbolise the exact opposite of the grounded, community-centred approach they believe should define Catherine's public role. What made this moment look so damaging was the growing sense that Meghan had swapped duty for dollars, turning royal status into something that looked less like service and more like a luxury brand for sale. That image hit especially hard in Australia, where public frustration reportedly exploded fast. By late March, a petition with more than 35,000 signatures had been delivered to the Australian government, demanding that not 1 cent of taxpayer money be used to support what many critics saw as a private Sussex business trip. That public backlash forced a quick response from Montecito. A Sussex spokesperson reportedly dismissed the petition as a non-issue and insisted the trip was privately funded. But on the ground in Sydney, the story looked far messier. Reports claimed that despite the private label, police, federal security teams, canine units, and drone surveillance still had to be mobilised because of the couple's high-profile security risk. And that is exactly what set people off. Because even if the event was being sold as private, many believed the public was still being asked to carry part of the cost. That security question became the heart of the outrage. Critics argued that Australian taxpayers should not be left covering the fallout of a trip tied to private profit. Inside palace circles, Prince William was said to be watching the reaction with cold satisfaction. By reportedly making it clear through Australian contacts that Harry and Meghan held no official role, he removed any room for soft confusion. They were not arriving as working royals. They were arriving as celebrity figures using royal titles in a private setting. That commercial versus constitutional split is now the sharpest line in this whole drama. William's strategy appears to be simple and ruthless. Let Meghan's own business choices tell the story. By letting the Her Best Life tour go forward in all its glossy, expensive corporate style, he did not need to attack it. The optics did the work on their own. Critics pounced on the contrast, saying it looked wild to speak about compassion and empowerment while charging what some called the price of a used car for a hotel ballroom event. So by April 2026, Meghan's public image seemed to be walking straight into a reputational storm. The 35,000 signature petition, the steel wall in London, and the wider criticism around the Sussex brand all hit at once. What may once have looked like a glamorous comeback now looked more like a warning sign. The Australian trip no longer felt like a royal-style return. It looked like a case study in what happens when a British royal title gets folded into a high-end commercial lifestyle pitch. And in that brutal battle of optics, Catherine came out looking stronger than ever. Her image stayed tied to service, patience, and public duty, while Meghan's looked increasingly tied to branding, exclusivity, and premium access. That contrast told the whole story in one brutal line. You may be able to market a title, but you cannot buy the respect that title was supposed to earn through service. As spring 2026 moved toward summer, the monarchy itself seemed to be crossing into something much bigger than a family feud. What once looked like a messy internal clash now felt like a full institutional break. The moves, shaped by Prince William, with the backing of King Charles and Princess Anne, had reportedly pushed the Sussex issue out of the emotional zone and into formal containment. That shift matters, because the palace was no longer reacting to drama. It was building permanent distance from it. The steel wall no longer looked temporary at all. It now seemed like part of the future design of the House of Windsor. In 2026, Harry and Meghan's royal identity, once their biggest advantage, appeared to be losing strength because the institution behind it had stopped feeding it prestige. That is the colder truth sitting underneath all this noise. A title only stays powerful when the palace, the state, and the public still agree to treat it like it matters. What William has shown through this crisis is a leadership style that looks hard, modern, and completely unsentimental. He appears willing to put the crown's long-term stability ahead of blood ties, and that is a major signal about the kind of king he may become. By giving William room to handle so much of the Sussex problem, Charles effectively handed his heir a live test of sovereign authority. This was not just family cleanup. It looked like preparation for the throne. William's approach seems to rest on one blunt idea: the monarchy cannot survive if it tolerates confusion, dilution, or half-in and half-out arrangements. In his view, you are either serving the institution or living as a private citizen. There is no Sussex middle lane anymore. That is why the palace's silence has become so powerful. It has not needed loud public attacks. The distance itself has said enough, and every closed door has carried more force than another argument ever could. At the same time, Charles's focus on Queen Elizabeth II's centenary sends a message of its own. It anchors the monarchy in continuity, memory, and dignity, while carefully stepping around the chaos connected to his younger son. That is a smart and symbolic move, because it ties the institution to its strongest legacy, instead of letting current controversy dominate the story. Looking toward the rest of 2026, the Sussex brand appears to be facing a real identity problem. A title without the full palace machine behind it starts losing value fast. The Sydney petition was not just a protest over security costs. It looked like a public vote of no confidence in the Sussex claim to lasting royal prestige. Meanwhile, William and Catherine have increasingly been framed as the monarchy's steady centre, and that contrast has only made them look stronger. So the institutional divorce of 2026 may be remembered as the moment the monarchy finally stopped chasing celebrity drama and chose distance instead. William made sure Queen Elizabeth II's centenary stayed a moment of national dignity, not a backdrop for spectacle. The message from London now feels final. The palace doors are shut, the old access is fading, and the steel wall is standing firm. For the first time in 6 years, Buckingham Palace's silence no longer looks weak. It looks controlled, deliberate, and absolutely unshakable. Drop your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more royal updates.